Hi everyone, welcome to week 47 in the BinarX Student Payload Development Program. I hope you all had a nice break and you are ready to get stuck back into it. Today I'll give you some updates on the Binar Space Program, a recap from last term, and I'm going to talk about what we're going to do for term 3 and 4 of this year in the program. I will also go through the parts that you'll find in your BinarX ground station boxes, which if you don't already have in your hands, you'll have very, very soon. So first, some Binar Space Program updates. Haven't done these for a while, but lots of news to share, and the news is all about all of you. So really well done. So proud of you for being at Test Readiness Review and Handover Day at the end of June. So just back in term 2, all the teams that came, the teams who presented ahead of time because they couldn't be there. It was a wonderful day. It was just beautiful to see what you'd all done. Handed over all those payloads for Binar 5 as well as for the high altitude balloon. Channel 7 crashed our handover ceremony at the end, but it was so lovely to see all of you on the news, getting your photo in the paper, and presenting all of your stuff. So really, really proud of all of you, and we're going to keep going. So from that feedback on handover day, you can update your test readiness review and handover documentation if you need to, because I know some people didn't finalize it and send it to me. We'll get that done. Keep working on your engineering models so you can get testing expected values or get it to take photos if you're the camera teams, and keep working on the software. So if you, some of you have already finished that, but we'll be working with you sort of ad hoc as we come out in our in-person visits over term 3 and 4 to help you with that. So there they are. There are the 4 carrier boards. So carrier board 1, 2, 3, and 4, which have all those 8 payloads from the 10 teams who are collaborating on them. And then you can see Binar 5 high school sat, we've dubbed it, as part of the Binar 567 mission. You can see the apertures where those photodiodes are looking out into space, where the camera is looking out into space, and where you can see all that here. I'll just do the diagrams where our photodiodes looking out, that's our antenna, and then our camera there. And so you get carrier board 1, 2, 3, and 4, all in that payload base. So that's really amazing. And the mission patch. So there, for those of you I know couldn't stay to the end for Fergus to give his mission update, we have designed the Binar 567 mission patch. And if you look at those, if you look closely, you'll be able to see all of your surnames throughout that mission patch, which is really beautiful because we're all going together. So Binar 5 is currently in production, should start the final build of the structure in December of this year, to hand over Binar 5 in Japan to the Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency in sort of mid-2026, and then launch next year, or at the end of next year, and deployment at the end of 2026. So there is a table with 4 carrier boards, and you can see your team names and your team names here, and your logos if you have them. If you still have logos to send through, please do, because we love a logo. Team names and a little description of your payload and which board they're sharing. So just amazing that we have so many payloads to go to space. And there's a breakdown of how everyone's arranged by school, by team, and by payload. So it's amazing that we're all going. So you're destined for that handover and hopefully launch November 2026. This is an image from the launch of Binar 234 in August of 2024, but it's going to be the same format for your Binar 5 satellite and your Binar 5 payloads, which is so exciting, going up to the International Space Station and deploying just like Binar 2, 3, and 4 did out into space. So you should all be really excited and proud, and keep working, because I know you need to do some of your testing to get the values for your instruments, as well as getting the final software written, because when they go out in space, you want to be able to get that data and understand what you're getting from your payloads. So super exciting. I was so thrilled we also had the 2 mechanically complex payloads getting handed over for our high altitude balloon mission from Kirchland's for the reaction wheel, which is a really, really popular demo, which we're still playing with in our office. And the QDFS team, I'm sorry I didn't grab a photo on the day of the burn wire circuit, but we're going to do the deployable antenna selfie stick. And we're targeting that high altitude balloon mission at the end of this year, actually. So there's HAB3, which was the high altitude balloon we launched from Varuna in March of this year. And then you get those photos from the edge of space effectively, and seeing the curvature of the Earth. So that's what we're going to be doing with that high altitude balloon. But for the rest of 2025, So you can see a photo of all the ground station kits ready to go side by side. These are the ones that are being delivered or have been delivered to your schools. So make sure, please, keep everything in that box as much as you can. I think the antennas and the speakers don't fit in, but everything else should stay in the box. And today we're just going to check over what goes in that box. We're not going to do anything with it. Just make sure you've got it all there and familiarize you with the parts. And then through the rest of this term, you're going to be building an antenna like we have here with Rayanne and one of our students who came for work experience. It's a really fun hands-on activity. And then with that DIY built antenna, it's a Yagi antenna, so it's a DIY version of the one that you're going to get pre-made in your kits. We make that with PVC pipe and 3D printed elements and measuring tape, and we're going to track it using a software-defined radio, which you should find in your box. Start looking at radio signals and exploring different parts of the radio spectrum. So not only do we track satellites like the International Space Station, so here we have the Churchlands team who did some testing for us last year with our ground station kits, along with John Curtin. Thank you very much for doing that. And then you pointed at those satellites, even though you can't see them, so you can see we're using our phone to track it using an AR app called Stellarium. And then going up onto SatNogs, you can see that signal that I received from the International Space Station using my ground station. So that's what's going to occupy us for the rest of this year. So the reason that we do this is because this is how you're going to track your payloads and the signal from Binar 5 when it's actually in space. And that's not the only thing we can do with those ground stations. We can also track high altitude balloons. So this is me set up in Waroona for HAB3 with that same folding Yagi antenna, tracking on a website called Amateur Sound Hub. So it follows the radio sounds, which we attach to the balloons to track them, and a very familiar Bunnings hatted teacher from Churchlands there who actually tracked the flight as well from their ground station at Churchlands last year. So it's all very hands-on stuff, very, very fun. So what I will get stuck into next is a video just going through all the components that are in that ground station box so that you can become familiar with those.
Okay, so you are going to get one of these boxes if you haven't gotten one already. We do love a good activity kit. This is going to be your BinarX ground station kit. So everything you need for your ground station to track your satellites is going to be in this box. So we'll go over what you should already have on hand and what's in the box. So hopefully your teachers or you will have still have track of the RTL SDR dongle. So that is that's your software defined radio. It says USB on one end, connects to an antenna on the other, and your antenna from last year. So that's just a little rabbit ears antenna that you should have. Hopefully, if you set up the stand, it's not critical. There's different attachments you can put that on. Optional. Googly eyes, if desired. And then you might have an assortment of antennas that came with that as well. So you can have a look for those. So what is additional in the kit that you're going to be receiving is your Raspberry Pi, which is going to have the software loaded on for the SatNogs network. So the first thing you'll have in there is a Raspberry Pi. So it'll be in a box like that. You can take it out of the box. It looks like this on its own. So because that's fairly susceptible to damage, we've also supplied a 3D printed case. Feel free to print your own. You can download them from Thingiverse. So those will go in like that. I'll just put that on there. That's a little board stiffener that goes on there, just keeps it from squishing together. You'll find 4 M3 screws that you'll use to assemble the Raspberry Pi. And then there will also be, this might be loose or it might be in one of these little SD card holders. There's the SD card that goes inside the Raspberry Pi. That's actually preloaded with SatNog software, the Raspberry Pi Bookworm desktop operating system, and SDR++, which we'll get into in a different week. When you do come to assembling it, it goes in the SD slot here, and it goes in like that. So you can put that in now or later, but we'll be putting it in eventually, so it should look like that. That's just if you need to write it in a different SD card slot, but it's also, I find these are handy to not lose the SD cards themselves. You'll also have a power supply for your Raspberry Pi. So that is a USB-C to 240 volt power supply. And you will also have a series of these little clip-on chokes, which are good for putting on things like your power cables. You can see, I'm not going to try and do it now because it's fiddly, or I can give it a quick shot. These are called chokes. You put them on electrical cables and speaker cables, and they prevent noise from interfering with different parts. It's got a ferrite or a metal core, and what you do is you just clamp that on to whatever you need it clamped onto. I'll show you an example here. So out of the box, the Raspberry Pi power supply looks like that, and I've got the little ferrite core on there, and that's just preventing the electrical noise from interfering with my software-defined radio. So it's optional. You can play around with these experiments, see what works, what makes it better, what helps. We will have also given you one of these cables to go. One end goes into your Raspberry Pi and the other end goes into your SDR. That just helps you, because these are a bit chunky, you don't want to take up the USB port, so you want a bit of distance. So you have one of those. Just put that down like that. You are going to have a little HDMI adapter. What you'll notice with these Raspberry Pi 4s is that the HDMI ports are mini or micro HDMI ports. So for when we're first setting up and you want to connect it to a monitor, you just need one of these little adapters. So they're in there as well. Regular HDMI, that just goes into your HDMI in port or out port of, I think they're labeled too. Yeah, they're just 10 and 11, so I don't think it matters which one it goes into. And do please keep everything in your boxes. We don't want you losing stuff. We can always replace it, but then it slows you down. Slows me down. Another thing that you will have that you'll need for the first introductory lesson with the SDR that we'll do next week are these speakers. These are just USB powered speakers. So one side goes into a USB jack, the other goes into the speaker jack. That's just going to let you hear the first signals, which will be going to be music signals that we're going to do in the lesson in a couple of weeks' time. When we get to satellites, you won't necessarily need the speakers because you'll do everything through SatNogs. And then in terms of extra stuff, and you don't need to worry about this for at least a few weeks, we've got a low noise amplifier. So this is going to amplify the signals from your antenna. There are some special considerations. I won't get into them today, but we'll talk about them later. And we've also supplied you with this weather box. It'll be in a lesson later on in the week, but that's meant to go in there like that. And you can screw it shut, and it just prevents it from, getting damaged or hit while you're tracking satellites. We're also going to give you one of these pre-made, off-the-shelf, foldable Yagi antennas. Do be gentle with them. We'll show you how to connect those in different weeks. There's like a fold down, but you can just leave them for now. You won't need it for a few weeks. And then those connect, and you'll actually be eventually making your own. Right at the end of this term and early into term 4, you'll be making your own, and these are really cool. They're a measuring tape version that we make out of PVC pipe, a little bit of soldering, and they've got some 3D printed elements. So we'll talk more about those in different weeks. And then the cables for your antenna that come with it, you're going to have, where am I going to put these? I'm running out of room. That's just a male-to-male 2-meter SMA cable. So you can connect that from your RTL SDR into your low noise amplifier when the time comes. This isn't going to be for a few weeks. And then this little cable here, this is the UHF to male SMA. So that's a UHF male, SMA male. That's going to be going in there. So I'm not going to show you how to connect it all, but just make sure you've got all of these components. And those are the ones that are going to stay in your box. You won't be able to fit the antenna or the speakers in your box, that's fine. But all these other little bits that are easy to lose, keep them all together, put them back in your box. Oh, and one other thing I did want to point out about these boxes is that they're not just boxes to store your stuff. They're actually an outdoor junction box or weather box. They're not waterproof. In the sense, don't immerse them in water, and still don't be operating your ground station in bad weather. Follow all the usual safety protocols. Don't mix electricity and water. And it's a little bit hard to get out the first time, so just be careful. I'll try and do it here quickly. There's these little tabs. So you can see on the front, there's these holes, and that's actually for your cables to come out. And then there's rubber in there to try and keep the water out. So if I can get that out. There we go. Okay. You'll see Just make sure you got which way around it goes, and you can actually separate. Oop, you don't want it to do that far. It's a little bit fiddly. I won't do like a perfect job of it right now, but you can separate this little bottom bit off. And then if you wanted to have your radio and everything kind of set up in there, and then you wanted to poke that through here, you'd put the cable in there. You get that all lined up nicely again, and then it's a little fiddly. You can use these tabs to line it up. Get that in a little bit further. And yeah, so it'll protect your station from wear and tear, but also from some of the elements, but you shouldn't treat it as completely waterproof. So you'll see there's little tabs in here. I won't go right the way through it if it's going to be fiddly, but then yeah, just push that down and you'll feel it lock back into place. And then you've got that rubber, and then you'd have this. You'd still need to make sure that wherever this was plugged into was sheltered, and you'd weatherproofed it appropriately. Or you can just keep it inside. It's fine too, or undercover. I've got mine out in the garage at home, which is nice because most of it's still able to be powered and undercover. So I'll leave that up to your individual schools. Yeah, and that shuts, and everything can be in there.
All right, so that's it for this week. So next week, week 48, we'll do an overview of the radio frequency spectrum, talk about amateur radio and types of antennas. So you're going to learn about radio frequency spectrum and different antenna types, and be introduced to amateur radio, which is a big way that we track and keep an eye on our satellites when they're in orbit. The amateur radio community has been a great support to us as well. So we're gonna link you up with that, and keep working on your engineering models, flight model spares, software, all that stuff. I think I said at the beginning, and make sure you've sent us your final updated TRR and handover documentation from week 46 if you got feedback. And we had some teams that was ready to go. That was fun. But if you're unsure, please just check in with us at BinarX@curtin.edu.au. And yeah, we'll just keep going. I'll see you all soon. Thanks. Bye.